Hello and welcome back. Now that we have our search query and then we're calling the Elasticsearch client search, let us just return the result. Remember, if we search, we are getting an object like this, and we have these hits, and then inside the hits object, we have the hits array. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I will say const. Here I want to return the total hits and the total number of items. So I want to return this hits array and then this total value. Okay, so these are the two information we want to return. So here I'll say const total of type I hits total equal to result dot. Now you can see the different properties we can get. So what we need is hits, which is this object right here. Okay, dot total. So this is for the total value. I'll cast this as I hits total. Okay, so this is the total value, and then to get the hits, we can just return an object. So return object. Here I'll say total of type total dots. You can see here we have total and relation. What we need is relation and value. So you can see value relation. What we need is the value. Okay, so the total will be total dot value, and then the hits will be results dot hits dot result dot hits dot hits. Okay, so this is the total value that we want, and then the array is going to be this particular hits right here. Okay, so this is the response. This is just all we need in order to perform a search. Okay, so search through these fields. We can filter by expected delivery. We can filter also by the price, and then we return the response. Let's go ahead and use this. So let's go to the controllers. I'm going to create a new file. I'll call this search. In the controllers folder, I'll call this search. Okay, now let's create our controller. So this is going to be export async function. I'll call this gigs. Okay, this is going to be the function that will return, the result, and then response of type response, and then we return promise of type void. So let's get the query params. So from size and type equal to request dot params. Okay, now remember that this hits is an array, but what we actually need from the array is just the source. We don't need the score, we don't need this ID, we don't need this index. We need what we have in the source. So we have to loop through this hits array and then get this source. Okay, so here I'll create an array. I'll say let results hits. This is going to be of type unknown. It's going to be an array, an empty array. Okay, and then here remember that we require a paginate property, which is an object. So I'll say const paginate of type I paginate props. Okay, and then we add from size has to be a number, so this is going to be pass int, because if any value you pass through your request params is going to always be a string. Okay, and then lastly we need the type. Okay, so maybe I can move this here. Okay, and then now let's call this method gig search. Okay, so I'll say const gigs of type I search result equal to await gig search. I will import this. Now let's start adding the properties. Now the first property is going to be request.query.query. Don't worry about this, we will see how to set this later. Okay, and then we pass the paginate, and then we pass the delivery time. So request.query.delivery underscore time. Okay, so if the user wants to filter by the delivery time, we're going to add it to the query as well. Okay, and then we pass the main pass int. This is going to be request.query.main price. Okay, and then the second one will be request.query.max price. Okay, so these are the properties that we are passing into this gigs search. Now, to get the actual source, let us loop through this gigs property we have here. Remember that it returns hits. Okay, so this is going to be for const, I'll say item of gigs dot hits. Okay, and then here I'll say results hits dot push, and I only want item dot underscore source. Okay, so I only want this source property. I don't want the score, I don't want the ID, I don't want the index. I only want the source property. So that is why we are pushing item dot underscore source into this list. Okay, now we have to consider the case as well. If type is equal to backward, so if the user clicks backward, then we need to sort by. So I'll say results hits equal to sort by. I think we already have Lodash. Okay, and then I want to sort by the ID, and then here sort ID. Okay, so let's say the user when the user clicks on the forward button, they click until they get to the end of the page. Okay, and they are viewing the last documents. And then when they click the back button, the same result we are getting, we are going to get the same result, but we are going to sort it by the sort ID. So if it started from 1, 2, 3, 4 upward, then if we sort by the sort ID, then it's going to return 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just like that. Okay, so that is what we are doing right here. And then here we just need to call res.status, and then I'll say status codes dot OK, and then dot JSON. Okay, and then here message, this is going to be search gigs results, and then we are going to send total of type gigs dot total, and then we send the gigs. Okay, the gigs is going to be this result gig right here. Okay, so this is the function we need in order for us to be able to get the result. Once all of these operations are performed, we are going to send this result. And then one last thing we need to do quickly, let's just export async function single gig by ID. Okay, so here I can copy this here. I want to use the second method. It's just going to be const gig equal to await gig by ID, and then I'll pass the index and then request dot params dot gig ID. Okay, and then here we are just going to send message. So this is going to be single gig result, and we are only sending gig. Okay, so this is the function to get just the information for one single gig, while this is to search and get the result for multiple gigs.